Hi guys and girls on YouTube, and welcome to my channel. Now this is not going to be the most exciting video I've ever posted, but I just thought I'd post this for old time's sake, because this is an item I've not seen for quite a long time. Now a customer rang me the other week and he said, I've got a VHS video, he said, and it plays alright but it's got no sound, and he got some wedding videos or something they wanted to watch on it. And he said, can you have a look at it? And he said, yeah, bring it in. If I can't fix it, I'll just give it you back, because it's a long time since I repaired video recorders. I used to do a lot of them back in the day, but most of the stuff I knew about video recorders I've forgotten now because they're more or less obsolete. But anyway, he brought it in. I'll take a look at it. I'll pick the camera up and I'll show you what model it is. I was quite surprised actually that it's even still working. So there we go, it's a Panasonic NV-F55. Now, people who remember Panasonic videos back in the day will remember that is fitted with the awful G-deck. Now G-deck is something I've not been involved with for a while. I did have a lot of genuine Panasonic service kits for these with all the cogs in, but I sold them on eBay about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago to get rid of them, because I thought I'm not going down that route again. Now for the people who remember videos, the actual mechanism was so complicated in these, and a cog used to jump a tooth and it'll all go out of alignment, and what you couldn't just line it up again. You had to change all these different cogs. And it was an absolute nightmare, but Panasonic actually produced a videotape, and I still have it, and it shows you step by step how to line all these different cogs up, and it all started with one cog. You get one cog in the right place to start with, and all the others follow back into line. But I'm definitely not getting involved in any mechanical jobs on these. But anyway, I've had a look at this. It does have no sound. I'll show you. I think I found the fault. Well, I'm pretty certain I found the fault. What I couldn't find, I will have the service manual for it, but I've actually had to look on the internet, because for me to find the service manual for this, if we look under there, I've got thousands of service manuals, and all these have been more or less in this same place since I actually moved up here, because I never thought I'd ever use any of these again. So I'm not spending days searching through all them for the service manual. I just looked it up on the internet. But let's get the bottom off and just have a look at the mechanics of the G-deck first. So who would have thought you'd ever seen one of these working again? Well, that's the underneath. As you can see, there's cogs under cogs, there's cogs under plates. There's literally loads and loads of them. All these have got to be tooth for tooth lined up before it'll work properly. Now if you look at that, a lot of the cogs are marked, but you still needed the mechanical instructions to get it right first time, and I did actually become quite good at these back in the day, because I've done that many of them. I definitely wouldn't like to do it for a living again now, because I've forgotten most of it, but I still do have the tape, and I still do have all the instructions that Panasonic used to give on these particular mechanisms. But this was, back in its day, this was an engineer's nightmare, because the most common fault on these plastic cogs, one would jump a tooth, it would all go out of alignment, you get teeth breaking off, and all of these cogs, every single one had to be replaced to get it right. So let's just turn it round and have a quick look at the top. Right, so that's the top view. You can see it is actually a die-cast aluminium chassis, these. So even though they were bad to repair, they were a real high-end, high-quality made machine, these were. Now the customer said there's no audio. I might have even had this fault before years ago and forgotten all about it. So I thought, where do I start? You've got to look on here for something that says audio, and I don't know if I could just find anywhere. So what I've done is I've had a look on the internet, I found the service manual, and the audio actually comes from a module that's plugged in down here. So let's just undo this and lift it up so we can have a look. So that's it there, that's the chassis lifted up. That is the audio module there with all them preset controls on. Let's just pop that out because luckily that only just plugs in. And that there is your audio module out. So what we've got, a couple of transistors, a big IC, some surface mounted bits on the back. Now I think I've already found the fault on this, and I'll just run you through it. So there's a couple of transistors there. With any fault, the first thing you need to do is look at supply voltages before you get too deep into anything. So let's just call up the diagram for this. So there we go, that's the audio pack. What you're looking at there is that big, I don't know, is it 80 or 100 odd pin chip? But anyway, so the sound, it comes in here, comes through a couple of buffer amplifiers and it passes out there. Now I found there was no sound here. So obviously the first thing we look at is the power supply to this IC. Now there's a block there that says REG regulator, so that supplies all the different rails that IC needs. So what we need to do is check the power coming in here. I've made it a bit bigger, so we've got 5.1, 2.5, 2.8, 5.1. So what we need to do is trace these back, and one comes from a transistor there. It says 5 volt regulator, and there's another one. Where was the other one gone? No, I think it's further down. Right, let's just stop the camera while I look. Right, that's better. So that's your plus 5 volt regulator, and then down here we've got a minus 5 volt regulator. Now when I checked these pins up here, the plus supply rail was only about 2.8 and the minus was 0 point something, 0.2 or something, instead of 5 volts. So two transistors, it's just about possible when the board is in the machine is to take some measurements on them, because either of them might have been faulty. And the two transistors in question are actually these two here. Now if you look at this, we can only see the bases and the emitters. We can't get to the collector, but there was enough room there when this is back in the machine to check the base and the emitter voltage, and I found one was missing. See, when that's back in the machine, you can only get to them two elements of the transistors. Not really safe to try and measure the collector in case you short something out. But anyway, I found the minus, I think it was -8 should have been going in, was actually missing. So I traced that back on the diagram. Right, there we go. So unregulated -8 comes up there, across there. It comes straight off the winding on the chopper transformer, rectified by that diode, reservoir, capacitor, choke. So all we can be looking at is that faulty, or a dry joint on that pin there. Can't be anything else because everything else is working fine. So power supplies here, 2 screws, 1 plug. Let's get it out and have a look. So that's the power supply out. I've already taken the screening cover off. Just drawn a quick diagram there, save keep walking over to the computer. And there ain't no dry joints on the chopper transformer, so that's one thing eliminated. So either we've got a faulty diode, faulty capacitor, or faulty choke. Down to 3 parts now. And the diode D108 is there, and straight away I can see it's green on one pin. Let me see if I can zoom in. Can we see there green? Well, that can only be electrolyte leaking, and also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte leaking. And also that track there, that can only be electrolyte le trying to point with my finger. See how that track has changed colour? That is the presence of electrolyte leaking from a capacitor, eating the track away. Let's just have a look at the back. Now you can't really see it because it's behind that cap. But I can see corrosion on the leg of this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them two out to start with, so we can get a better look. And that there is your answer. It's C112, leaking electrolyte. I've taken out that other one as well. That looks okay, but probably just change that anyway. And the diode in question is probably open circuit because it's all covered in electrolyte and it's changed colour. There it is, D110. But you can see the damage it's done. And you can see where electrolyte's actually running down there as well. In fact, what I might do is take all these caps out, because I've just noticed there appears to be electrolyte underneath this one here. But when it's in the machine, it's stood upright, so I would have thought electrolyte would be dripping down, not going up. But I can see underneath that cap is also wet. So probably the best thing to do is to change all of those and the diode, and we'll see where we go from there. But you can see the damage it's caused there, and you can see where it's been leaking out there. Yeah, so that must be leaking because that's further down and these are further up, so it's got to be that one as well. And for that reason I've decided I'm just going to change the whole lot. So let's come back to that when it's done and see if it works. Yeah, look at that. Let's see if I can get some light on it. Just as I suspect, that one's been leaking because it's been running down. So, and look at that underneath, all wet. Yeah, so that's a good decision, that. Just change all of them. I'm not just changing them for the sake of it. I'm changing them because they're all the same brand. So if one's leaked, that means the other ones could leak. So let's come back when that's done then. And there we go. That is the diode down there, which you can't see very well. I've changed all the capacitors. And for the 680 ones, I put a 35 volt one in because these are only rated at 20 volts. But I've used the same Panasonic 105 degree, and if you can see them, both of them were leaking. So that was a good move, changing all a lot. A friend of mine, Bernard Hull, he's been dead for over 10 years now. He had a shop over the road from me many years ago when I was on the marketplace, and he'd say, no, don't change them all, just change the one that's faulty and the rest are a job for another day. But we don't do that here. So that is all the parts in. I've just had to do a little bit of a track repair there, but when I've cleaned this up with some flux remover, you probably won't be able to tell that, just where it's a bit corroded there. So let's clean it up first. And it should come as no surprise to my viewers, I'm using this for cleaning. And there we go, that's what it looks like cleaned up. Beautiful job. You can just see, let me zoom in, you can just see there where I repaired the track, because the electrolyte's just eating that bit of track away where the diode is. But anyway, that's all nice. I think we'll just put it back in now and try it. But I'm pretty confident. Right, so there we go, power supply's back in. you've a job to see my monitor because it's behind this commercial microwave waiting for a part. But anyway, I've got pre-recorded tape, so I'm not going to play it for too long because I don't want any copyright problems. Let's watch it loading up.
Right down the end of this street and around the corner.
Hey Joe, no papa, no mama, no per diem. Hey Joe, you wanna play? You wanna be
Yeah, and there we go.
Hey, you got a cigarette?
Just try the tape that the customer's brought with the machine. He's even bought another telly because he thought it might be the telly that's the problem, but it turned out it's the video. So let's just try this for a couple of seconds.
Factors in the Allied victory in the air of World War II, and both arrived in the nick of time. The Hawker Hurricane.
And there we go. Who would have thought that we'd ever see a G-deck working again? Leave it in the comments if you've got one. If you've still got one, I would imagine that this is still working because it's probably had very, very little use. But anyway, there we go. I'll catch you in the next video. I told you it wasn't very exciting, but the whole idea was just to show you the G-deck again. Alright, catch you in the next video then. Goodbye.